Maybe we can do 2 Hammertime, depending on how fast this is. Okay. I'm gonna be reading this in a very, very, very authoritarian voice. Alright. You guys ready? Overwatch University. Too often, the standard advice given to new players is to not die. And who could be faulted for giving that advice? Dying is bad most of the time. Most of the time. Sometimes dying is so good, though. Okay. But that is possibly the most harmful advice that one could give to a new player. It's such particularly like one of the most important traits having this game, aggression. Overwatch as a whole favors aggressive play. Most heroes in the game are not meant to be played in a passive, reactive way. Otherwise, you would see top players just stand next to their main take all game, passively shooting at what happens to go... I mean... Yeah. No top players are different from the rest because they are proactive. They don't expect plays to happen. They make those plays by being aggressive and looking for opportunities. By being the change they want to see in the team fight. They don't need to rely on their teammates to win. They win the game themselves and climb all the way to the top. I mean, like this, if you actually look up very generic, general, blasé statements in the dictionary, this statement shows up. Okay. By being the team that makes the first move, you gain the initiative, forcing the enemy team to react to you and play on your terms. You're able to put pressure on the enemy team, which leads to them making bad decisions. Many players crumble under pressure, and you can easily win team fights by just forcing the enemy team into uncomfortable situations. You gain more ult charge because you are dealing and also taking more damage. That makes absolutely no sense, but anyway. Which generates ult charge for both your damage dealers and your supports. But isn't that's mutual, mate? This is a stupid point. You could plan ahead of time how you're going to attack, while the enemy team has to make a plan on the spot on how they will defend your attack. This is true. This is why proactivity in Overwatch is often good, is because you can actually, your team knows exactly what's happening, and during a planning stage, and it forces the enemy team to react, which is harder. Ultimately, by being aggressive, you win more teamfights, and even when you lose, you make the loss of schools as difficult and hard fought for the enemy team as possible. Well, only if that's like saying food is delicious because food is delicious. You're just restating your point. Being aggressive is good because you win more team fights. Wait, really? Okay. And even when you lose, you make those losses difficult. Well, only if being aggressive is good. So like half of these points are bad, half these points are good. Now, how does this tie into the advice to not die? Well, there's a difference between making a play and feeding, and all has to do with timing. If you time aggressive plays with your team's pushes and tempo, you will more often than not actually make a clutch play than feed. Sure. For example, if you see your DPS and your main tank pushes into the enemy team, that is your moment to make the seemingly reckless play that you've always wanted to make. By being aggressive all at once, you put insurmountable pressure on the enemy team that can easily get a quick team wipe. But to know the right timing for making a play, you have to be aggressive and test your limits. Don't be afraid to make an aggressive play when you think it is right, and even if you die, it is still a valuable learning experience that will allow you to make better aggressive plays in the future. Too often, players are too afraid to make aggressive plays in the fear of dying, and while they might get damage or healing medals, they are not the ones who are making plays and actually causing things to happen, and thus have trouble climbing. But how can you be more aggressive on each roll? Tanks! Instead of waiting for your DPS to get a pick, press W and push in so you can enable your DPS to find a good angle and get picks. Sure. Often, if you're aggressive at the right times, even you can get an opening pick and snowball the fight towards victory. Off-tanks in particular should not only stay on the front line, they should look for off-angles to put additional pressure on the enemy, and sometimes even to get a backline pick. DPS, instead of merely spamming the enemy shields and tanks, look for opportunities to take off-angles and flanks so you can bypass the enemy tanks and shields and get picks on enemy DPS and supports. If you are a flanker in particular, like Tracer and Reaper, set up behind the enemy team so you can surround them once the team fight starts and pressure the enemy team on two sides. It's not about getting gold medals, it's about finding opportunities to get picks. Don't just heal. Use your whole kit to gain an advantage. Good Honor players, for example, are the ones who have more of an arbitrary percentage of scope accuracy. They're the ones who sleep the right targets and land huge purples which are team fight winning. As another example, good Mercy players aggressively use damage which help the DPS be more aggressive and secure picks quickly. You are a support, not just a healer. Boy, that sounds familiar. Ready for Rap God time? Finally, all should learn to use ultimate actively. Also, these who play to win team fights and by being the first to play your ultimates. For you, force the enemy team to use their ultimates just as 5. Try to reverse the advantage game by your ultimates. So don't be a passive player who just waits for the ult to happen. By be the change you want to see in the be the change you want to see in the team fight. Make the ult plays yourself. Okay, so is supposed decent in its concept, sure. Being first means that you guys get to dictate the tempo. You guys get to set the plan. Being first means that you get the stress test, and you don't just play passively. You actually force yourself to improve by pushing yourself a little bit harder. How he's calling you to go aggressively, I think I relatively appreciate. It's just some of the points that he makes in his point overall isn't communicated in a way that's super, super applicable, and I think there's a lot of crap here that could be slacked away. So I'll give this a high tolerable. Yeah, half the post is redundant. I agree with that. So yeah, there was some useful information about like engagement timing and about how going aggressive allows you to give your feedback on what to do. And I think the big point was like going aggressive means that you know your team knows exactly what's happening, and it helps you to set your timing more in tempo. But yeah, I'm glad I chose to give that with a dictator voice, because that was a very unusual post. Okay, we actually do have time for one more. When to play each flex tank. Wait, I know this name. This is Black Tacron. Okay. I get to roast my own mod. Poggers. Ironic Poggers. Doesn't count. Poggers. Another ironic Poggers. So it doesn't count. I'm not being cringe. Okay. When do you choose flexing? Oh, bless. Flexing is taking preserve and maintain. If your backline, sure. Means your backline saying like man post Spilo, ha 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 Spilo, okay. Okay. Okay, here we go. Diva. Optimized for movement. Diva's key's benefit is rapid aggression. Her booster is able to engage at a faster pace than other flastings. High mobility. Additionally, her boosters make the use of better moving back and forth between offangles, most notably high ground. Diva is the best fit at contesting high ground. Sure. Strong peel. Diva's sure. These are all fine. Diva excels at rapid playstyles, and most notably her ability to contest high grounds. Yes, there's a key difference between contesting and controlling high grounds, however, that's the amount of time they can occupy the angle. Diva's matrix only lasts so long, so while she can boost her up to high ground and very easily afterwards, easily and contested. That means timing is crucial. You can use sure. She's a great pick for dive teams that use fast pace and use a Winston or no, because the Winston less backlash requires significantly more peel than other flex tanks can balance and provide. Dribble Tang is one of the best players flanking. So Diva's because I look more comparing to each other. Okay. Sure, man, sure. Ding, ding, ding. Like it. Sigma, optimized for control. Voice of an angel, yeah, and what? Off-angle control. Unlike any other off-tank, Sigma has a shield. This means that he can actually control an off-angle, unlike any other flex tanks. He can poke without bleeding ult charge or his own health points. Can I grasp the shields and hit points makes it even better. Controlling the off-angle, preventing DPS from occupying them. He is shielding the off-angle, can practice backline. Control consistency. Another reason why he's controlling off-angle. Sigma is one of the strongest duelist heroes in the target and thinks his myriad of abilities, and this means he's very difficult for any single opponent to force off high ground. Generally, multiple heroes have to be that good to force Sigma off the off-angle. Ding, ding, ding. Nice. High damage. Sigma has damage up, but allows him significant pressure. Remember, pressure is peeling, and if the enemy pressure supports have to turn on, like a Sigma is threatening them from off-angle, and tanks are okay. Good, sure. These benefits come at the cost of low mobility above all else, and being a squish your target. Playing at a much slower pace, there's less forgiving decisions come to high ground. Even more often, there's lack of horizontal mobility. Use Sigma for map control. It gives consistency and damage pressure at the cost of mobility and peels. Teams using Sigma generally want to play a slower style, focus on controlling those first before engaging. Map geometry also comes to play. Use for Diva when there's less high ground and longer sight lanes, because his kit can get far more value in that situation. Last, Sigma generally is a greedy tank. He's self-sufficient for the most part, doesn't give as much peel to the team either. For example, if a team is running in Arista, she doesn't need much peel. Let Sigma control the offense, let the team like do his best. Play ability, super running Sigma. The dive choices, dive composition is a choice. Playing Matrix support line doesn't need some resources. If you see a brick player along with a wrecking ball, there's not much reason for Diva in the dive comp. You don't need the peel, so take the more consistent damage to the map control. Something given the control wins games. Something with this area that can be addressed. We don't know without Phoenix. So sure, man, sure. Okay, so far so good. My mouth is hurting. What do you mean I don't have time for this one? Do you feel how fast I'm moving? Oh, someone go. Okay, never mind. We're gonna do this. Zarya's key abundance. High damage. Zarya takes share of the flex thing when it comes to sheer damage output. When a charge is built up, there's no one realistic to close to the line of playing match. Yeah, bubble utility. Zarya's proactive cleansing effect. It's against anti-nades, iron freezing. It can reactively protect somebody who's already in trouble. Sigma has essentially no way to proactively protect, and even can reactively protect against, can't reactively against CC. Zarya's bubble is the only flexing ability to protect against insurance against Zarya has a similar lack of mobility. Sigma. Similar things rocket shipment. Louder to find it. Inconsistent where bubbles being used in a cooldown. You would run Zarya over Sigma when you want to utilize the utility bubble against CC abilities. She's less consistent than Sigma. She's better in counterplays and burst value rather than sustained spam. She's great at quickly clearing on off angles, thanks to her high damage output because of the bubble cooling can hold them as well as consuming them. I said earlier for his quick rushes. He's the most lethal thing when it comes to fear frontline battles. Wow. While she's off strong in the ladder, where in lower ranks she's not near as much, offering those flings to the maximum potential, especially going right now because shields aren't as strong, which enables a Roadhog, and she's only a tank that can really do anything to break a hook team except for Diva. She's also strong in Brom out because she provides the CC insurance for their Winston. General Diva is better contesting high ground than England, more consistent, is better controlling offense. So Diva in terms of okay, something that you might have missed with Zarya, but not a big thing, is that in Brawl matchups, so like think about like Volskaya Industries' second point. Would you run a Zarya or would you run a Diva or would you run a Sigma there? Most teams will run Zarya because the sight lanes are shorter and the Sigma isn't as valuable, and because it's hard for, and like when you have high grounds like you do on Volskaya Industries' second defense, your demand for peel is less, right? It depends on what you're playing into, obviously, but you have short sight line, brawl your point with your backline in a really strong position, so you don't need the matrix peel as much. That's where the bubble is a lot more valuable. You see what I'm saying? Cosmo Cons, thanks for the follow. So something like a Lijiang Tower Control Center. Not playing Zarya and Lijiang Tower Control Center is kind of rough. Like Ryan Sigma just doesn't do as much, right? Because you play slow, but there's no long sightlines, so Sigma just gets outvalued by Zarya. Like one thing to note is that Zarya murders Sigma, in my opinion, in a brawl matchup whenever the sightlines are short. Like it used to be like, oh, Ryan Sigma was like the default brawl, but like as his shield has got nerfed and as he's got nerfed, like Zarya is just so much better. And Diva's only better if you're like going absurdly fast, because the off angles and high ground control just isn't as good. So yeah. Okay. Is this peak? Yeah, this is peak humanity. Roadhog optimized for being a DPS. Independent kill pressure. Roadhog applied for consistent kills with hook, almost like Zarya, who needs to charge up and be pocketed to some degree. He takes a breather. Ability also means that he can occupy things without needing to use the team resources. So yes, independent kill pressure. Correct. Thank you for the ball. High damage. Roadhog is another flex thing based off damage pressure like Zarya and Sigma, except his damage is based on getting value with hook, except he is based off getting value with hook and picking off opponents. He's another strong duelist hero like Sigma, arguably Sigma the best in the game, and can easily find pickoffs. He also has good shield break because he's strong. I would argue that Hog probably beats Sigma nowadays because of the Sigma nerfs. Although, actually post-Hog nerf, who knows? So, like, this is also pre-Hog nerf, I'm thinking, but post-Hog nerf, I don't know. Because, like, what brought Hog back was because flipping Sigma got nerfed so much that Hog could actually clear him out on off angles for once in his life. Yeah. Durability, take a breather, make some hard to kill. Roadhog's been out of the battle for a long time for a reason. First, he bleeds, ult charge because he has no sort of protection to negate damage. It's his fully mechanics-based value, light and hitting hooks to confirm the kills. Third, he has no way to peel for teammates besides hook killing him, which is not easily the most consistent. He's taking the pressure of peeling Kree very seriously and plays better than flanger himself. Fourth, he has no ability whatsoever. Fifth, and finally, his ult is well, I'd also add a sixth that Sigma's just been better at him at controlling off angles. Like, Sigma is legitimately so much better than controlling off angles than him for so long, and now it's like becoming a lot more even, so Hog is better. Roadhog excels at independent play, and for all practical purposes, he behaves like a DPS. He can't directly peel or protect his main tank very well through dubious backline hooks and body locking, so he's entirely based around pressure on angles. However, he can't control angles like Sigma, who also rivals him in terms of damage output while being more consistent. He can also he can more so now because post Sigma nerf. He also can't flexibly connect like Diva due to lack of mobility. So what's left? Well, using the off angle, he's like Zarya, where he forces out off angles with sheer threat and damage output, except that one, he doesn't require as much team resources thanks to self-heal, and provides even more burst damage than Zarya on those flanks. He only needs the 1 split second to land a hook until Roadhog's buffs and Sigma's nerfs. Sigma just did Roadhog's buff. Yeah, there you go. You hit it here. Because the vast reason consistency, okay, outside in the air. Everyone now has been wondering what Roadhog's place in meta will be after his recent buffs and rapid influx in the circus competition of Roadhog Zarya, essentially deathmatch. Everyone is especially what will happen on the pro state, frankly, I don't know. Or doesn't provide peel that Run Hero wants and really need. And Russ's current state means that she may not have been nerfed enough to make herself functional at peel. Okay, so basically, like a quick side note here, I think Roadhog Zarya, by the way, is a pretty decent comp, but I do not think it's better than Dive. I think good, like equally, two equally skilled teams, Dive team will be beating the Roadhog Zarya team. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. And also, the reason why teams aren't playing Roadhog Zarya is because the comp is dead. The comp is literally, it's a dead language. It's a dead man walking. These Roadhog nerfs come in, that comp is gone. Gone. And I don't think we're going back to a spam meta, period. So these teams that are like I don't know about Owl, because like obviously Owl is playing an Owl patch and then the season's over. But for contenders teams, like if you're playing Roadhog Zarya, it's a risk, because you're not going to play anything that resembles that comp. I don't think post Roadhog nerf. It's going to be Dive, maybe Brawl. Why do you think that's so? Well, first off, because the comp is fine, the comp is good. And they have unearthly good players on those roles. Like Decay and Gesture and whoever the Roadhog, I forget, Janu, like they're really good at those heroes. So they also have a specific playstyle that's really, really good. So I will be very curious to see how Fusion does into Washington today. Unfortunately, I can't finish this, but honestly, I'll give this a beef, dude. Like, this is good. This is good content. This is educational. This is interesting. This is phrased and structured well. Obviously, I've got a little bit of favoritism coming in here, but honestly, it's good. I like it. Beefed. Nice job, Chief.